I'll start now from the earliest finished to the most recent finished or started. I think the first thing I read recently, and I'm saying over the summer, but I'm starting from like May because there wouldn't be enough if I just counted what I read over spring break or the summer break. I read this several times. Oh, wait. I dog ear books like this on the bottom when there's a page I want to quote, because I like to post the quotes I like to my Tumblr just so I have them so they're easy to access. And I can like scroll through my own Tumblr and look at all the quotes. But yeah, I'll have to look at that later and see what it was. I only like this book because of the prose at this point. Like, there's not much going on in the story. They barely know each other. The age gap is weird to me. I mean, a lot of people feel differently about age gaps like this. I mean, especially people who aren't straight. Yeah, so I feel like it's a stereotype within gay relationships where there's just a huge age gap for the ages that they are. So for example, like if you're 18 and you're dating a 15-year-old, that's a large age gap for your age. And so 17 and 24 is pretty insane. I mean, like if it was like 35 and 41, that wouldn't be a crazy age gap, I feel like. But yeah, I think they're 17 and 24. So yeah, like not everyone thinks that the age gap is weird. A lot of people appreciate the age gap because it's displaying a part of the community. I'm not gonna get into all of it, but I love the prose. And I love the underlying theme that's like them being one. I like it. Yeah. And then the next thing I finished was The Rebel. It's on its last limbs. I got this from a used bookstore, I think. It's Albert Camus. Albert Camus. I'm pretentious, so I always pronounce the French names correctly in philosophy, but okay, I swear the books I got from that store were fighting for their lives when I got them. There's no saving this book. There's this little free library structure by my house, which is, if you don't know what that is, it's basically a little structure people build for the people in the neighborhood to put books in and take books out, and it's all free, like no one's monitoring this or anything. I was gonna do that after I read it, or maybe give it to a friend or something, but really, like, I'm not convinced anyone's gonna pick this up. Like, even if I tape this back together, would anyone even want this? I'm not sure. Me personally, I don't care about the appearance of my books, hence why I still got this anyways. Plus it was probably like $3, but yeah, I picked it up, I think because I have been seeing a lot of Albert Camus, because if anyone's confused who I'm talking about, because I feel like I've said Albert Camus and people are like, who? And I'm like, Albert Camus, and they're like, oh, okay. But yeah, I've been seeing a lot of his quotes on my TikTok For You page, except for they were so heart-wrenching, I probably had to click not interested. Like, they were devastating. Very proseful. So I was intrigued by him. I had probably heard of absurdism before. I mean, I definitely had heard, like, I took an intro to philosophy class, which I was doing Reading Start, which is basically when you can go to college when you're a minor and get a degree at 18. You can graduate high school and get a college degree at the same time. Okay, phrase that correctly. And in my intro class, it was basically us going through a history of all of philosophy, like even Eastern philosophy, like all jam-packed into one class, one quarter. From what I've heard at the university I currently go to, that's not how the intro class works. But We did go over Camus because I think I looked it up in the textbook we used and I saw that Camus was mentioned. I don't remember how much detail. I'd actually like to say, I don't know actually how much detail we went into with him, but I probably originally learned of him from there. I still don't know what absurdism is. I don't care. I am not someone who is super into existential philosophy. I mean, I'm a physics major. I like my favorite area of philosophy is probably logic. like, so I don't tend to go into existentialism. I feel like when I first learned philosophy, I was a big fan. Like when I took the intro to philosophy class, because I originally took it thinking I wouldn't like it, but I just needed that general university requirement for my AA, and I knew my friend really liked philosophy and it satisfied the requirement. So I was like, I'll give it a shot, but I was dreading it. But anyways, I ended up really liking it. But from the brief amount that we learned about everyone, I ended up really liking, I mean, besides from other people, but in the existentialism category or the existentialist category, I really liked Kierkegaard before I read more into him, and I really liked Nietzsche. But then once I found out the Nazis used his books, I was like, that's a little interesting. But then I found out that they were completely misinterpreting him, and his sister went back and edited his books after he died to make it appeal to Nazism more. So he's still interesting, but I'm also just not much of an existentialist. Like, I like things that have extremely logical foundations, and I don't mean that in the colloquial sense of the word logical. I mean like if A then B, A B. Like I mean like a literal logic proof, like logical laws. But what was I saying? Before I specifically became not obsessed, but interested in that area of philosophy, where I realized I was mostly just specific in those types of areas of philosophy, I really liked Nietzsche and Kierkegaard. Anyways, that was so besides the point. The Rebel was good. I feel like Camus is famous for absurdism in like his book The Myth of Sisyphus. I feel like absurdism is founded in a different essay. Like this book is technically called an essay, but, or at least it calls itself an essay, but whoever translated this called it an essay is what I mean by that. But yeah, I can't remember the name of the original book that I think absurdism is explained in. I didn't read it, but when I opened this book, it was like, so we all know that you can't murder because of absurdism. It's like a logical contradiction, which caught my attention, obviously. I mean, logic. But I think I probably looked up a video and like skimmed an article or something about what absurdism is, immediately forgot. Didn't need it. Anyways, really. I just trusted him. I was like, okay, I'm gonna trust you and believe you. Believe that absurdism is sound, not in the philosophical sense. Yeah, but it's basically about, I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. It's about rebellion, what the fact that rebellion exists implies about existence, and how not to go about rebellion. Like, it's just 300 pages of this person tried to rebel in this way and then he killed himself, or he started murdering people, and you can't do that because it's logically contradictory. Can't remember if the assertion is that suicide is absurd, or not absurd, contradictory, or if it's murder and suicide. For some reason, suicide is bad. For some reason, that's founded in this book, besides the common knowledge about suicide. Yeah, everyone in this book is really insane. I had listened to a few lectures, although I'm not sure what the quality of these lectures were. I can't even remember what school they were from. on Sterner, and I was like, I like his ideas. They seem well thought out. He makes good points. And then he was being quoted in this book. I'm looking to the left because I have a Sterner sticker on my water bottle. Not necessarily because I believe that I know everything there is to know about Sterner. I just don't buy into the idea that in order to identify as liking something, you have to know everything about it, which I'm not going to get into. But yeah, I still think he's, well, I actually read the quotes about him before I got the sticker, but I think he's hilarious. I mean, if he was alive right now, I'd be a little concerned the things he says. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I could find a quote though. Yeah, I don't know. The one of them that I'm thinking of is where he's like, "Can you smell the terror in the air? Isn't it like magnificent? Like, isn't it just delicious? Like crime lingering in the sky like a thunderstorm." Like, it's so funny. He's so insane. It's funny. I wasn't surprised by anything said about Nietzsche. I didn't love the interpretation of Marx. I have a communist manifesto. I'm less of a fake fan of Marx than I am of Sterner. But some of, like, just the quotes that are attributed to him surprised me. Because apparently he was kind of like some of the Russian communists, although he obviously goes into communism in this, but he kind of reminded me of them with the quotes in the sense that he would applaud people who exploited others aggressively, but like he was saying, yay, like we're helping speed up the process so that the workers can be liberated. Like that was his perspective. But it was still interesting. I mean, as Camus and anyone with a brain no, because Camus pointed out, a big part of this book too is warning people against worshiping some kind of absolute non-physical universal thing. Yes. Which is a bit confusing because he states that rebellion is a sign that we're recognizing that something within us exists and is shared by all of humanity, but then also is a reason why a human shouldn't be in certain circumstances. But that seems to be portrayed as good, but worshiping anything else metaphysical or including anything else metaphysical in the rebellion seems bad. I mean, he talks a lot about people not necessarily trying to become God, but in a way rebelling against God, whether it's through moral rebellion, or just killing themselves. Like, yeah, it's kind of hard to explain this book without sounding insane, but yeah, the moral rebellion against God, from what I remember, I feel like there was this Yvonne quote where he's like, basically like, I don't care whether or not I would be saved. I mean, the fact that some people are damned is not right to me, so I refuse to be saved. I refuse to follow a moral scheme. But the problem with that, in all of the examples where they're worshiping or they're rebelling in a similar manner, is that in refusing to abide by the stereotypically religious morals, they kind of develop their own moral law where they're just like, it's okay to murder. There becomes this moral code of killing and being killed, since it's frowned on by religious laws, which is technically its own moral scheme. So what are you left with? The only way to not fall in line with morals or obey a moral scheme is to kill yourself. That's like the conclusion of most of the situations in this book. Like, if you think this way, you're gonna have to kill yourself. So And then the other type of rebellion against God. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, I think it's just about, it was like in the early, like in the beginning pages where it was like, how come God gets to choose who gets to live and who gets to die? I'm gonna choose that. And then you murder people or you kill yourself. So obviously not good. Because of absurdism. Because it's logically contradictory. I forget why I went on that tangent. I don't remember at all, but I think it was because I was talking about Nietzsche. I don't remember. Oh, I think I was talking about Stirner originally. But interesting book. Everyone's just insane in it. A lot of these people mentioned in this book just need psychiatric help. They needed a psychiatrist. They needed to set down the pen. They needed to see a doctor. I saw there's one quote or one page where it was basically explaining how this guy was like he was just overly zealous about dying for Russia. Like, you're just suicidal. I don't know what to tell you. Lots of people in this book are insane. I loved it though. It was entertaining. I thought it was kind of funny. I thought some of the quotes were funny. They were ridiculous. Funny. But then also at the same time, I mean, obviously, since I was able to regurgitate some of the information in this book, I still felt like I was learning on some level. I didn't care really to investigate the claims that deeply, because I was just reading this for entertainment, not necessarily even just because of the quotes, just like how I would listen to a philosophy video while I wash the dishes for entertainment, kind of like that. So I wasn't like trying to figure out my own moral scheme or anything like that. But it was an entertaining read. It was a hard read. Hard to experience happiness sometimes with some of these people, and when you're reading some of the stuff, it gets kind of heavy. Definitely had to also pick up another book while I was reading this, so I didn't experience the same fate as a lot of the people in this book, but it was interesting. I enjoyed it in the way I tend to enjoy nonfictions, which is I found most of it slow, but what I got out of it was so rewarding. That was worth it. The next is a DNF. Let me see. Okay, so there are 422 pages. I'm 306 pages in. I can't do it anymore. I just can't. I'm proud of me because I didn't dog ear this. I stopped dog earing recently. I'll probably pick it up again though, because I don't really care about the appearance of my books, clearly. I mean, I got this at a used bookstore, but yeah, I don't know about this one. It kind of reminds me of Circe in the sense that there's nothing going on here. Circe, the one by the person who wrote the Song of Achilles. But the prose is just forced. Like, it's just not good. Like, the author tries to insert prose in pretty sounding sentences, but they don't even really have content to them. It's just kind of similar to just saying things for the sake of saying things. So not only is it boring, it's like boring in plot and writing. So I just can't. I can't finish it. I was trying to force myself to finish it. That's why I made it so far into the book. Sorry, it's called Clytemnestra, I think. I don't know how it's pronounced, but I'm probably gonna put this in the free library by my house because I can't. I just can't. It's about the sister of Helen of Troy, but nothing's happening. Like, it probably took like 150 pages for her husband, like the first major event, to be killed. Before that, she's just fighting people, but not in an interesting way, just in a tournament way. It's really not even interesting. There's nothing happening in this whole book, which sometimes I don't mind, but I couldn't stand it in that scenario. So DNF. The next thing I finished, well, I'll just do the next thing I started. The next thing I started was the audiobook It by Stephen King. I have the physical copy on my bookshelf. I've already read it. I am like 30 out of 40 hours through, but it's just not interesting enough. I'm not getting what I got out of it when I was 14, and I like really loved the book. Like it was my favorite book when I was like 14, but I'm a changed person. I'm not into the whole shock factor thing, and it's really slow. And there's also no prose. I really like The Shining. It's still one of my favorite books. I just think The Shining is paced better though, and it's written better, is better. I know in It, everyone talks about the scene where they run a train on a 13-year-old, but the most, I guess like the scene that really got me to really reflect on why I'm reading this, or reflect on whether or not I want to continue reading this, is Patrick's little section. I mean, I didn't remember this, but apparently he doesn't remember, sorry, there's spoilers. He doesn't realize that like everyone else is real, and he feels like only he's real. So he kills his baby brother, like as in baby. And then he also like gets off to dead animals. It was just disturbing because he kills them slowly in a fridge, is my understanding, and it turns him on, and I just couldn't listen to that part about the animals dying, but I could listen to the part about everyone else dying, so I don't think I'll be finishing that one. Also, listen to the audiobook Normal People. I read the book. It pissed me off because I couldn't tell when someone was speaking and when someone wasn't, because there's no quotation marks. But yeah, I still didn't like it when I listened to it, so I don't know how I finished it. I guess I was just really bored. It really is just normal people. Not normal, because originally when I read it, I was like, these people aren't normal. Like, the average person doesn't behave like this. At least not like the girl main character. But I realized that's probably what's meant by normal people, is that nothing extraordinary happens to them. They don't even experience this like great love. Like, it's like two mentally ill people, basically. Still needed the main character girl to stand up and stop letting people walk all over her and asking people to abuse her. That's all I have to say about that. I don't like that book, so I don't know why I re-listened to it. I don't know. Sometimes though, I don't like something, and then I like, this is mostly with watching movies, I don't have the patience to reread something if I don't like it. But I'll watch the movie again, and then I'll be like, oh, I actually really like this. That was not the case with Normal People. Next, I was like, let me read The Picture of Dorian Gray. I'm in the mood for a romance. I've already read it, and I liked it in the same way I liked The Rebel, in the sense that it was very slow, but I learned a lot. This is the uncensored version, so the extra gay version. It's so romantic. Oh my god, I have to read some quotes, because people who don't think that The Picture of Dorian Gray is a love story, it is. Okay. Let me see. I marked this book up. I have over like 200 annotations. At the end, I think I gave up, but yeah. Oh yeah, and it already comes annotated. Like, it already explains historical context and analyses that have been done on certain aspects of the story. There's a scene where he admits to worshiping Dorian Gray. Okay, about the painting. What's his name? Oh my gosh, it's not Lord Henry. Howard, I think. Yeah, Howard. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced. I'll just say Basil, because I feel like I'm more likely to be pronouncing that correctly. I put into it about the portrait all the extraordinary romance of which, of course, I've never dared to speak to him. He knows nothing about it. He will never know anything about it. I find a strange pleasure in saying things to him that I know I shall be sorry for having said. I give myself away. As a rule, he is charming to me. Let me find something else. Lord Henry said, no wonder Basil Hallward worshipped him. He was made to be worshipped. And there's also like a part where he's like, I didn't even approach him at the club because I knew I'd become obsessed with him. But yeah, it's a love story to me. Oh, that's how I was bookmarking my place with the cover and I just lost it. Oh well. Yeah, I didn't finish the reread because it's just too slow. It's really interesting though, learning about the meaning behind it, the proposed meaning. Oh, also a funny side note is that they literally put him on, okay, it wasn't funny at the time. It's just like a ridiculous thing to imagine. They put him on trial with this book for public indecency. And they would read passages out loud to him. And they'd be like, this sounds gay as hell. What did you mean by this? To like show that the book is gay and so he might also be gay. As an Oscar Wilde. Which is so ridiculous. That would never happen now, thankfully. Yeah, it's basically just about, because he's a big art for art's sake person. I think he was, I don't want to say the decadent movement existed when he was alive. I feel like it came like a little bit before him and the l'art pour l'art. But which literally translates from French to the art for the art. Yeah, but so there's this guy who would get called a hedonist, which is this philosophy that's in short described as pleasure being the greatest good, is my understanding. Again, I have not really studied that area of philosophy, those types of areas of philosophy for a really long time. He like basically cleared his name basically, and that pissed Oscar Wilde off. So he wanted to write a book about what happens when you get overly concerned with your art being a reflection on you. Like, he's looking to the portrait to see his sins show up within the painting, and he's becoming fascinated by it, and it's driving him to do wilder and wilder stuff to see the results in his painting. It's also about being a hedonist without wanting to be a hedonist without being called a hedonist. Dorian is able to hide his actions with his appearance, because during this time when this was written, there was the belief that your appearance reflected how you are deep down. So if you're really ugly, it's because you're ugly inside. So he's able to hide the fact that he's doing these bad things by having it show up in the painting. And the fact that he's not going to get caught, actually I want to say the fact that he's not going to get caught is driving him. I would say it's probably showing that even if you get overly concerned with people knowing you behave in certain ways, you're still behaving in those ways. There's a line, I think someone like calls something a new hedonism, and there was an annotation from the book that was like, this is mocking that one guy who didn't want to be called a hedonist. It was a very interesting book. I love the way they talk about each other. The metaphors were so interesting to learn about and think about. Really good book. So I actually might pick this up again soon. I don't have the attention span for that right now though. So the last book I read is called Anna K. It's a modern retelling of Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I'm not too much of a classic girly, at least not like the Eastern European classics, from my understanding. yeah, I guess I'm just not really into older classics. So I'm not even gonna attempt to read that book. But I really like this book. It was really ridiculous. There were some typos, like some blatant typos, and I'm confused as to how they made it past in editing. I got this at the free library though. If you don't know, I'm not entirely sure what the original story is about, but this one is about a girl who's rich and therefore mildly famous, and she has this boyfriend, but he's boring, basically, and she's in love with this other guy, this hot blonde, blue-eyed guy at first sight. That's basically that's the whole book. But although there's not a ton happening, the romance doesn't make any sense. How are you in love? How are you guys both in love with each other when you met at the train and exchanged like 5 words then? Unclear, but all the characters were just so funny. Oh my god. They were just so hilarious. Let me think of an example. The opening scene is Anna's brother's girlfriend mad because Steven, Anna's brother, has been cheating on Lolly, his girlfriend, with someone, and the contact name was Brad, and it was like a boob picture. And so she goes that he received and she saw on the phone, and so she found out that he was cheating. So she locks herself in their mother's closet, puts on her coat, and is crying. Mascara is pouring down her face, and she posts a picture on Instagram of that. Why? Unclear. Like, why did she do that? I don't know. All the characters are so ridiculous. They're so weird. There's some incestuous stuff going on. Like, Vronsky, Count Vronsky, Anna's love interest, his cousin. There's a lot of head hopping going on here. We get to know everyone's thoughts, and it's legit head hopping. Like, we can find out 3 different characters' thoughts in the same paragraph. But yeah, so we head hop to Beatrice, the cousin, and she apparently at one point when she was drunk and horny thought about grabbing his junk, but only didn't because she didn't want to ruin her reputation. Everyone's just so ridiculous in this book. It was entertaining. I honestly wasn't so sure about it at first because I'm usually not into stuff that's like overly satirical like that. It's just usually, the fact that it's so overdone usually is a turn off for me, but actually ended up enjoying it. I finished this probably in a week or 2. It's only like 400 pages. I used to read that in like 2 days, but I don't have an attention span anymore. So yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna read next. I'm feeling a romance. I'm looking at my bookshelf and I don't have any romances. So I might read The Song of Achilles, comfort book. I might read Lord of the Flies. I've been wanting to redo the videos I did on Lord of the Flies, redo the analysis. But that would just take so much effort. I don't know if I have the attention span for that. And I might read Jurassic Park because I saw it at the free library near my house, so I picked it up. And now I'm gonna force myself to read it because I want to, like, I'm gonna return this. I got it from the free library. I'm just gonna give this up because I'm not finishing it. Yeah. I wanted this video to be short, but I can't ever stop talking. So, hope you enjoyed. Like if you wanna, comment if you wanna. You can subscribe if you want, but I don't post a lot. That's not gonna change. I've got my cute little office job. Don't have enough subscribers to be a YouTuber. I don't know why I'm dragging this on. Thanks for watching.